Okay, we're recording. We're recording! It's happening. Good morning, gorgeous gorillas. I am here with Dan Kahn, who is going to be my guinea pig for this idea of a themed collaboration with Wiggling. Good morning, Dan.
That's my guinea pig impersonation.
Guinea pig. It's a very effective guinea pig impersonation. I am super excited that you wanted to do this collaboration with me. What motivated you? What inspired you?
Well, I like wiggling, and yeah, I appreciate your enthusiasm and it seemed like fun, and yeah, I was just kind of game. I think you invited me. I don't remember exactly how it came about.
I probably did.
Did I volunteer, or did you just say,
Probably.
"Hey Dan, want to do this to me"? I don't remember.
It was probably one of those things where, what is that? There's nothing worse than the earnest acceptance of a casual invitation. I'm sure I'm misquoting that, but you probably, I think I remember you quoting like, "Oh, this would be so fun," and I was like, "Let's do it." And you said, "Okay." So here we are. But I would like to, if you're okay with this, first of all, can we know a little bit about you? And I know you and I are friends from Gainesville, and now you are off in the north and doing amazing things with restorative justice and other things, creative endeavors. And I would love to just hear a little bit about what you're doing and what you're up to.
Sure. Well, it just occurred to me, you might not be up to date with my geography because I'm only slightly north. I did move from Gainesville to DC for about 4 years, but then I moved back to Tallahassee. Did you know that I'm in Tallahassee?
I didn't know you're in Tallahassee. Facebook tells me nothing important. So you're back in Florida. No wonder. So you're probably like, when I was like asking you before we started recording, "Oh, is it cold up there?" And you were just like, that's a weird question, but okay, no, you were very gracious about it.
No.
So cool. Welcome back to Florida. But so are you still doing justice stuff though?
Yeah. So when I moved to DC, I gotten hired by the Peace Alliance, which I had volunteered with for 8 years before that, and I was like a state coordinator, and then I was on the board, and then they hired me as field director. I moved to DC, and the Peace Alliance promotes peace building tools, programs, and policies to resolve conflicts, to enhance cooperation, all different levels, like from social emotional learning in schools to restorative justice practices to multi-party mediation internationally, any context of trying to build peace practically. I probably shouldn't emphasize practically so much because there are so many ways of building peace, but these are actual like practices that are proven effective. So yeah, doing that through policy changes and through promoting programs that work. So I love that opportunity. So I was coaching groups of people around the country who were promoting these programs and policies. That was my job. And then the budget of the Peace Alliance took a major dive. They had a boom and then a shrink. So we really slimmed down what we could do at the Peace Alliance. And I stayed on creating a monthly action call and a monthly action, and being available for activists and organizers when they wanted support, but it became a lot smaller role. And I was exploring some other possibilities in DC. I was working with teens on a contract basis with like creative and communication oriented programming, but it wasn't sustainable. And then I saw an opportunity to come back to Tallahassee to work in a program that I knew of as a model program, in my view. My friend Cindy Bigby had taken over this program, Community Connections. And it's a combination of empathy skills and restorative practices for teens. Most of them court referred, some referred by school discipline. So I wanted the opportunity to get more hands-on into some of these tools. Before, I had been more in the sort of advocacy role, and I picked up some skills along the way. I did some trainings, but I wanted to learn more for my own life, for my own, experience and relationships. I felt I really needed that, and I wanted that experience. And at the same time, I learned that the Florida Restorative Justice Association was seeking a new director. So I knew a lot of the people on the board, and by that time, also through the Peace Alliance, I had gotten to work with statewide restorative justice associations on some of their initiatives, and in Colorado and in Massachusetts. And so I knew a little bit about, what I thought was needed, what was priorities for a statewide restorative justice association. So
Wow.
I wrote to the board and I said, if I were the director, this would be my set of priorities. And they said, that sounds good. You're in.
Hired. Oh, that's fantastic. So can you tell a little bit about, because I know I have a little bit of familiarity with restorative justice, and it's it feels like it's becoming a little bit more of like a buzzword, like more sort of in the common conversation that people are having, at least some people are having. Can you give us the basic ABCs? Like, what's the primer of restorative justice for people who may not be familiar with this term?
Sure. So it's really kind of an approach typically to a harm or a conflict situation. That's the kind of thing that I think most people would do with their families. Like, something happens, let's talk about what happened and who was impacted, how we can try to heal whatever the harm was, and how we can prevent this from happening in the future. So those are the typical 4 questions in a restorative justice circle. Like, what was that? What were the people involved thinking and feeling at the time? With the snapshot of what was happening there, and who was impacted, and what were those impacts? And then how can we heal those impacts, and how can we prevent this kind of thing from happening in the future? So it's a community conference typically to determine those things, and then make some agreements, make some commitments with a time frame, and then there's follow-up to make sure these things get done. But typically, a lot of walls come down in that conversation, because it's a different framing of the incident from what we're accustomed to. It's not like so much who is to blame and what should their punishment be, or it's more like what happened and what was the impact, and how can we heal this and build connection. So people talk about it being relational.
Right.
And the effects are, whenever statistics are measured, the effects are highly positive. There's a very low incidence of repeat offense that can be measured, recidivism, and the satisfaction of all the people involved when it's measured is very, very high. It tends to be highly effective by all measures that I'm aware of.
That's amazing. I know that there was some people that I follow on my Instagram deal a lot with like doing justice and activism work. And I remember there was a case recently, and I'm not together enough in my head to have like looked this up ahead of time. There was a case in the news recently where a man who had committed violence against an Asian American person, and that person had requested restorative justice instead of like a punitive or sort of a litigious sort of response. That person had requested restorative justice. So did you hear about this? Can you speak to that at all? Like, is that becoming more common? Do you know?
Yeah, it sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't know any details about that incident. But I think it is becoming more common. Like you said, it's becoming more well known, and people have sought out something like this without knowing that it existed. I've heard lots of stories of people from people who were impacted by some action, and either their family member was harmed or killed, or they were harmed, and they really wanted to have some, for their sense of closure or moving on or peace. They wanted to know what was going on in that situation, what was happening for that other person, just to move past it rather than holding this walking around with their pain connected with somebody else's guilt in their mind. They wanted to transform that. So people have sought it out when they didn't even know that there was such a thing as restorative justice. So now I think as it's gotten more publicity, people are more likely to kind of ask for it by name. Yeah. And I want to mention there's a whole other realm of restorative practices that are more proactive. So not necessarily responding to a harm or a conflict, but also laying the cultural groundwork for a situation where people are more likely to know that every voice here matters and everyone's experience here matters. So the harm is less likely to happen or be so extreme in the first place. Like, for example, just if there's a group, like a classroom or another community group, to have some practice of check-ins, go around and see what everybody's feeling. It's as simple as that, just to know all these voices matter. We're all here together, and that can create a culture where people are less likely to harm each other. And to know if there is harm, we have a method for addressing.
That's amazing. But was the basic idea that if people are getting what they need, their essential behaviors and adaptability to life is so much more sustainable. I woke this morning with the thought that we really need to stop 80-20ing society. That there's this idea that we are so in a rush to accomplish X, Y, and Z, whatever it is, that we just get this narrower and narrower margin of the people that can fit within or accomplish those sets of goals. And meanwhile, everybody out here is just like, but we're humans too, dudes. Like, what's happening here? And so just, yeah, this sounds like a whole paradigm shift into just a more collaborative, but also a more accountable way of living. So that's amazing. What an exciting line of work that is. That must be, it sounds like it to me. And that's awesome. Well, I didn't ask you this ahead of time, but if you would like to, if you know any websites off the top of your head, or if you want to email me later and I can add them in the comments of just some resources for people to learn more or check out the program that you're doing, then I can include them in that for sure.
Sure, yeah. You folks want to connect with the Florida Restorative Justice Association. That's floridarestorativejustice.org or .com. We'll get you there. I'm going to check out the Peace Alliance. So the Peace Alliance is still up and running and looking at this assortment of things in the world. It's peacealliance.org.
Sweet. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. I feel like this is a fascinating enough subject, but I also know that you do other creative things in the world. Would you care to speak on those?
Sure. Well, you're probably thinking mostly about the Shakespeare play that's happening this weekend. Is that what was on your mind?
Well, sure. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
As I put you on the spot. As I put you on the spot. As I put you on the spot for, sharing personal stuff.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I like acting. I like storytelling. And it probably connects with the restorative practices in various ways if we want to get deep about stories.
Always.
We're all story creatures and creatures of fiction.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So I'm acting in a play, Shakespeare play at the Southern Shakespeare Theater here in Tallahassee. I've really enjoyed this group of folks, and tonight's the final performance. They did live stream. It's 12th night. Happened to have playable 12th night, starring Hal Sparks.
Amazing.
Visiting celebrity. So they live streamed it Friday night, and I think that video will be available at some point for people to watch if they want to see. I don't have a super big role, but I play the sea captain. If you know the story, there's a little bit of like the plot exposition in the beginning. The sea captain's like, well, there's this Duke Orsino, and then there's this lady Olivia. Here's what's going on. So I get to kind of set up the story, which is fun. And then I have a couple of other small roles.
Right on. Salty,
yeah.
got a little salty thing happening here.
What was that?
You got a little salty thing happening here.
Oh yeah, yeah, an old salt. And I've been playing more music, playing and singing more music this last year and a half with friends than ever before. Like on a regular basis, there's a group of friends that have gotten together. We were sort of pandemic pod friends,
Yeah.
and I've been playing some trombone and getting to share some lyrics and a little bit of guitar. So, and we've actually kind of are a band now. We're hoping to maybe play well, I hesitate to name the event because I don't want to put anybody on the spot. We have to submit a recording and they have to decide if
Right.
you know, if we're going to be up to snuff. So I don't want to put any pressure on it, but yeah, it's just fun. Even if we don't get to play there, the process of putting together what are our favorite songs is also like, what story do we want to tell? You know, what do we want to put out there? And yeah, it's a fascinating process. I'm excited. It's sort of the beginning of, hopefully the beginning of some new fun, expressive, creative sharing stuff.
That's fantastic. I hope you will, if there's something online that you can share, a recording that you can share, hope you will send a link. I would love to see that. And it's so funny that you talk about, I feel like I have the same relationship with story and narrative, that so much of life is just the arc of the narrative, right? Whether it's a person's personal growth or a project or people coming together for restorative justice or even like creative endeavors, that I personally see so much of things as story. And okay, you're gonna think I'm a nerd now, but I feel like wiggling is this huge part of keeping the narrative moving. Like, it's so easy to get stuck. I think mentally we get stuck in these ways of thinking and being, and that wiggling is just this, it's just like a little bit of rebellion or something. Like it's this little
Yeah, gotta shake it up. If you're a nerd, then so am I.
Okay.
Sign me up.
Right on.
I'm a wiggle nerd.
Yay, you're like one of maybe 2 or 3 other people I think that are probably you know, anyway, maybe we'll find more, but I feel like I would love to just invite you to do a 3-minute wiggle with me, and we can close out this lovely time together with a little bit of rebellion. Does that sound good? Okay, let's get situated. All right. Oh wait, first you have to tell me what you're drinking. That looks amazing. It looks like Hulk mud. It looks like
Hulk mud. Yeah, dear friend sent me this care package, I think, to help my health during this run of the show with like Ricola cough drop, product placement. Ricola,
Ricola
helps me survive. Just the sugar ones, none of the like aspartame or any of that. I don't like that.
No.
Yeah, and these little frozen smoothie packages that you just add like water and orange juice, and it gives you all the superpowers.
Amazing. All right, you're gonna get situated. I'm gonna get situated too. So I have this timer that I feel like our fates are intertwined somehow. It's just an old-fashioned timer. I call it the dreg timer because it's got the most heinous bell, like non-peaceful bell chime, and yet I feel so emotionally attached to it. So I won't use it if you will be disturbed by this little thing that will happen in a few minutes. It's also not a very good timekeeper, but I feel like it's so perfect that I end up using it anyway. Will you be okay with this drug timer?
Yes, I trust your process. I will roll with the timer.
Okay, I'm setting it for like about 4 minutes because that will mean we'll probably get about 3 or 3.5. Anyway, here we go. Keep calling, wiggle on.
All right, so just a refresher, one just wiggles.
Yeah, one just wiggles. So yeah, so the principle is maybe in that moment you're feeling like what your body might need, so you just kind of move it a little bit, and it's completely free form, and it could be slow or faster and energetic. It could be on the floor. It could be standing. It's completely intuitive, and just you kind of do what you're feeling in the moment, wherever it needs movement.
All right. I think
Okay.
my intuition is telling me to put on a lighter shirt. Can
Okay.
I dash for 30 seconds and grab
Do
it?
it. Absolutely. We have room for real life and wiggling. I'm going to start wiggling though, so just join in when you get back.
All right.
You see what I mean? That was definitely not. Hold on.
Oh, what happened?
Yeah, it's showing like a minute and a half left. So I'm just going to
Oh.
reset it again.
Start over.
This
Okay.
poor thing. Okay. Yeah, nobody knows how many times I just have to edit the video so that the audio buzzer will come at the right time. Floor wiggles.
What did
It's
you
a
say?
thing. Floor wiggles. Floor wiggles are a thing.
Yes, I'm feeling the floor.
We buzzed.
You
did
buzzed.
Thank you for being a willing guinea pig and for joining me in this crazy creative endeavor.
You're welcome. Thanks
Which
for the
somehow-
conversation and the wiggles.
Yeah, I hope to talk to you again soon. And I would love to see some of those links for some of the stuff that you're involved in, the creative stuff. And I'll make sure to transcribe the URLs for the other work that you're doing in the world too. Thank you.
Okay. The name of the band is PB and Jam.
That is brilliant. It's like a dad joke. It's like a musical dad joke, which is perfect, which is the highest compliment I can give, really.
I'm touched. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear. Have a beautiful day.
You too. Bye.
Okay. Bye.